We have been hearing from people living in England in the 1600s. And next month, we're going to have, instead of poetry, I'm going to post a series of readings of William Bradford's History of Plymouth Plantation. It's November, of course, I'm going to do that, right? But in between, I want just to share a few selections from a man who kind of bridges that gap between England and New England, who lived after the Pilgrims. A man named Edward Taylor. He was a Puritan who was born and raised in England during the time that, or shortly after the time that George Herbert was writing. George Herbert was a priest of the Church of England. He would have been on the royalist side of the Civil War. Edward Taylor seems to have been possibly involved on the Puritan side against the king. We don't know really much about that part of his life. He was still very young, but he seems to have left England in the year 1662, which is when King Charles II came back from France and the Puritan Republic was brought to an end, what's called the Restoration. And at that time, there were quite a few Puritans who decided they needed to go to New England where it was safer for them. Jonathan Taylor and his brother Richard apparently also seem to have been among those. Richard returned to England. Edward Taylor remained in the Boston area, in Cambridge exactly, to be precise, because he went to Harvard and graduated from there, although he was a couple years older than most of the undergraduates by that point. And after Harvard, he became the minister of the church, the Congregational Church, in Westfield, Massachusetts, just on the Connecticut line. And there he stayed for the rest of his life. He died in 1729. His poetry continued in the possession of his family, but he had left directions that he never wanted to see any of it published. It turns out that someone else got hold of it. I don't know the full story, but a manuscript was discovered in 1937 in the library at Yale, and it came to be published as a result of that. The sections that I'm going to read are very much like George Herbert, but with a Puritan rather than an Anglican theology behind them. The style is pretty much the same. You can tell they were writing around the same time. I am, however, going to start with one of his meditations in poetry. And the reason I'm picking this one to go first is it's the first of his poems I ever saw. It was assigned for us when I was in high school, and we had to write a one-page essay on it, which I do not remember anything about except that we had to write one about this poem. It's based on the Song of Songs, or the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 1. I am the lily of the valleys. Goes like this. Am I thy gold, or purse, Lord, for thy wealth, whether in mine or mint refined for thee? I'm counted so, but count me or thyself, lest gold-washed face and brass in heart I be. I fear my touchstone touches when I try me, my counted gold too overly. Am I new minted by thy stamp indeed? Mine eyes are dim, I cannot clearly see. Be thou my spectacles, that I may read thine image and inscription stamped on me. If thy bright image do upon me stand, I am a golden angel in thy hand. Lord, make my soul thy plate, thine image bright within the circle of the same in foil. And on its brims in golden letters write the superscription in a holy style, then I shall be thy money, thou my hoard. Let me thy angel be thou my Lord. Tomorrow, another poem.